Over 40 miles west of the Outer Hebrides off the country's northwest coast, there is a small island that was previously inhabited for thousands of years but has been deserted since 1930. It was suddenly evacuated with residents forced to leave and nobody has lived there since. You may not have heard of Hirta, the largest island in the Street-Kilda archipelago, with the stunning Isles of Skye, Iona, Arran, and Bute often taking center stage. This little island lies about 100 miles off the mainland, is completely uninhabited and has a rugged and unwelcoming terrain. However, Hirta does have a fascinating history and people are thought to have lived on the island for thousands of years as it has fresh spring water, with residents living off meat and the eggs of birds they kept. Its largest settlement was known as the village, which had a population of more than 180 in the late 17th century. But the island's numbers dwindled as a result of disease and migration, with the 1861 census showing its population was just 71, the Daily Record reported. These figures declined even more at the start of the 20th century to just 36 people in 1930. In August of that year, sick of the difficult life on the island and sparse population, the inhabitants that remained requested to be evacuated to the Scottish mainland and left for good aboard the HMS Harebell. Since then, things on the Isle took a creepy turn as 3 planes crashed there during the Second World War. While nobody lives there anymore, it is thought Hirta has been used by the Ministry of Defence and the National Trust, as well as scientists performing experiments. Tourists are also welcome to pay a visit and often do, drawn in by Hirta's 9 miles of stunning coast and its rugged terrain. In 2016, Hirta's last surviving resident, Rachel Johnson, died aged 92, having been just 8 years old when she was evacuated from the island. Mrs. Johnson was born on the main island of Hirta in July 1922 and settled in Clydebank after leaving the remote location, where she married her late husband Ronald. Throughout her lifetime, Mrs. Johnson only returned to the island twice, once to film a documentary and once after being invited by the army to see how her homeland had changed since her departure. She became last native of St Kilda left alive after the death of Norman Gillies, 88, in 2013. The island was evacuated after residents petitioned to be rescued from the hardship of life there. Many of Hirta's young men left during the First World War and never came back. 4 other men later died of flu, a disaster that was promptly followed by a series of crop failures. The Street-Kilda archipelago is owned by the National Trust for Scotland. The strange thing about Hirta is that while it's a small island and deserted, in the 1940s 3 planes crashed onto the island and all the crew of each died. The 3 planes were fatalities. A Beaufighter, based at Port Ellen on Islay, crashed during a night flight in June 1943. Most of the wrecked fuselage plunged over the cliffs and no bodies were ever found. A Sunderland flying boat and her crew of 6 New Zealanders, an Australian, and 3 Britons, crashed in June 1944, while on a night operational flight from Oban. All crew members died in the crash and the wreckage was later dismantled and buried by the RAF in the summer of 1944. A Wellington bomber crashed on Soay during the war, later identified as an aircraft lost out of Stornoway in February 1943, carrying a crew of 6. All lost. Is the island cursed? People can still visit the island, but some give reports that it is obviously still inhabited as there were other people on shore before their arrival waving to them. However, when they land no one else is to be seen. Other people report being followed around the island by a single dark figure, and others say groups of men and even children pop in and out of the now derelict houses here. To this day, pilots avoid Hirta and its range of radio signals, which seriously affect the GPS of planes, and new pilots to the area asking for advice are almost always told the same thing by the CAA. The statements are: areas of intense air activity, AIA, STAR. Airspace within which the intensity of civil and or military flying is exceptionally high, or where aircraft, either singly or in combination with others, regularly participate in unusual maneuvers. Pilots of non-participating aircraft who are unable to avoid AIA should keep a good lookout and are strongly advised to make use of a radar service. The areas are depicted on UK AIP chart ENR 6-5-2-1 and, together with their appropriate radar unit contact frequencies, on UK CAA aeronautical charts. High-intensity radio transmission areas, Hirta. Hirta are areas of defined dimensions within which there is radio energy of an intensity that may cause interference or damage to communications or navigation equipment and may be injurious to health. Pilots should be aware that these transmissions can give false indications on navigation and systems monitoring equipment. GPS is particularly vulnerable. Details of the major sites are listed at UK AIP section ENR 5.3 and are depicted.
Pilots of non-participating aircraft who are unable to avoid AIA should keep a good lookout and are strongly advised to make use of a radar service. The areas are depicted on UK AIP chart EN 652-1 and, together with their appropriate radar unit contact frequencies. On UKCAA, nautical charts, high-intensity radio transmission areas Hirta. Hirta are areas of defined dimensions, within which there is radio energy of an intensity that may cause interference or damage to communications or navigation equipment and may be injurious to health. Pilots should be aware that these transmissions can give false indications on navigation and systems monitoring equipment. GPS is particularly vulnerable. Details of the major sites are listed at UK AIP section EN 5.3 and are depicted on UKCAA aeronautical charts. Reference to specific Hirtas can be found in the ENR 5.3 section of the AIP.
After a lot of digging and many months, it became clear that the original people who lived on the island were used to seeing fast-moving lights in the sky at night well before the jet engine was developed, and reported hearing no sounds emitted from the propellers of any planes and them moving too fast. These could be classed and likened to today's reports of UFOs maybe. Since the planes' crashings, there have been numerous reports of what seems to be aircraft crashing into the island and a continued reporting of strange lights moving fast in the sky. Are these the same? Whatever the reasons behind this and these incidents, it seems to be at least a very, very unlucky place.